incident response plan and what is the incident response methodology. Okay, describe incident management team, incident response team, proactive detection triage. What we mean by this, guys, we just mean that's okay. In incident response, there is so many teams are involved. There's so many communications happening. Okay, there is also management support for the team. So we need to understand responsibilities and rules for each of these teams. Okay, we also tomorrow we'll look at the computer forensics and why computer forensics is important. As I mentioned, incident response and computer forensics are related. Yesterday I touched this very quickly, but again we will look at this in a very quick manner tomorrow. Okay, and lastly we'll look at what we can do as when we develop high-level incident response. So this is the topics that we'll try to cover today, and tomorrow we'll look at tools and forensics steps to do a proper forensic within your organization. Okay, so again, I like to go back to our NIST and remind you why NIST is important. I'm sure that we are recording, Ustaz Alamia. Okay, so basically, if you guys look at this, for example, we have what we mentioned that NIST is an organization within the US. They are really taking care of the standards. And one of the standards that they are published is CSF, Critical Infrastructure Framework. And the critical infrastructure framework consists of, I would say, main function. Is basically this main function I wanted you always to keep in mind when you try to protect your information assets. Okay, so if you are in an interview and someone asks you, what are you gonna do here? So basically you're gonna say that I'm gonna protect the information assets. I'll try to minimize the downtime. I'll try to minimize and mitigate the cyber attacks. And how are you gonna do this? By implementing a standard like NIST CSF. And the NIST CSF is basically saying that in our day-to-day life, to protect our information assets, we need to implement 5 core functions. And this 5 core functions is identification, protection, detection, response, and recovery. Okay, guys? In the last few weeks, we have already talked about identification in a very brief way, that we talked about, you know, you need to understand the business you are in. Are you working for Aramco? Are you working for telecom? Are you working for hospitals? Because even hospital now, they are hiring cybersecurity analysts. So are you working for organization like a bank or maybe a financial institutions? Are you working for a government institution? Are you working for military? So this will indicate what kind of, how they look at the security. So it's important to understand what is the business, what is their mission, what they wanted to achieve, what is the main important assets they have within their organization. And that's why we said this in the early beginning. You need to sit with the management, sit with the business owner, understand what systems they need, okay, to our system they rely on to keep going. Because, you know, most of the organization now, you go in the morning, you find, you know, end users, you find employees are sitting in computers doing stuff, okay? And doing stuff means they have computers, they have servers, they have infrastructure, they have different technology, they have mobiles, they have printers. So you need to really understand the business. You need to understand what systems they need today, on a day-to-day basis to carry out their business. And you need also to understand what is the important assets for the business. So you need to understand criticality and impact. And we talked about the impact analysis yesterday, or business impact analysis, BIA. And BIA basically, it's very similar to risk assessment, but the only thing is we don't look at the vulnerabilities. So we look at the system. Why it's critical, okay, how important this system, and what is the impact if we lose this system. And also we look at the threats to these systems, whether it's an internal threats or external threats. So this is basically the identification phase. So in the identification phase, so far we learned that there is 2 analyses we can do. One of the analysis is risk assessment analysis. Okay, we talked in this in details. And yesterday we talked about new type of analysis, which is BIA. BIA is business impact analysis. Okay, and BIA, guys, is important. Same child, same day. You like risk assessment. What's going on? Okay. So I tried to find out who is putting us in unmuted. Okay. So again, guys, so every day we have this very enthusiastic, I would say, kid in the morning. He's like, yeah, let me attend a little bit of the lectures, Mr. Shadi, before I go get some rest. Okay. So yes. So we go again back here. So we mentioned that exactly, it's a future cyber security hacker. Yes, analyst. I agree with Hadi. So here, guys, we have in this identification phase, we mentioned risk assessment is important. Okay, and the risk assessment is basically a document. Okay, and BIA is a document. Okay, but these two documents will clarify to you what is the criticality and what system we have, what is the criticality of this system, what is the impact if we lose the system. Okay, what is the time recovery objective for this system, what is the maximum time, tolerable time to have the system down. So this kind of information, it will help you when you, first of all, when you are trying to allocate resources to defend your system or to mitigate cyber attacks. Without these documents, you're gonna do something called ad hoc security. Ad hoc means, oh, today I have a file servers, we have an issue with this file servers. Let me go and see what is the security solution for file server. Tomorrow, oh, I'm worried about network, attacks. So let me go and buy firewalls. This is an ad hoc. Why? Because you don't see the big picture. The big picture only you can see, and you can see what is the most important asset for your company, and you try to defend it in a proper way and allocate money in a proper way when you conduct risk assessment and BIA. Without these two documents, without a risk score, without evaluation for risk inside the organization, without understanding what is really critical, you will be doing an ad hoc. Ad hoc means it's gonna be all over the place. It's not gonna be really allocated to the proper resources. So the proper assets will not be protected, and eventually you will fail. Okay. So this area, I would say, identification, you should spend a lot of time prepare this in a proper way. And that's why we have a job now. I mentioned it right before. It's called GRC, which is Government Risk and Compliance. And these GRC guys are sitting all day long. They're working in just the identification phase because they wanted to produce the risk assessment and they wanted to produce the BIA. And then later on, we can start to do, the technicality here. The technicality is how to implement proactive controls and detective controls. So the first job, and that's why if you guys look at LinkedIn now, you'll find a lot of jobs are asking for GRC analyst or GRC senior analyst or GRC, engineer. And these guys are basically, they are working on identification. So they will help the company using different tools to produce the risk assessment, to highlight the risk to the management, and also to try to give a solution for mitigation or to mitigate the risk. Okay, once they are done with this, there is another team called the technical analyst or the cybersecurity engineers. They will take this recommendation and start to implement the solutions here. So all these areas is basically how to protect the data. And we mentioned also in one of the lectures that the data, okay, or in your information system consists of so many components. We said we have the hardware components, okay, we have the software components, we have the operating system components, and we have also network connectivity and network communication protocols. In order to implement cybersecurity, you need to really protect all your information systems, okay, within your organization, okay, and to ensure also confidentiality, integrity, and availability for these operating systems and hardware and software and application and communication links. And this is basically what we cover in protection. And we cover so many techniques in protection. And we said that one of the techniques to really implement in protection is make sure that, to really ensure the identity and access management or access control, and we have already talked about this in a very deep details. Okay, guys. We then moved. I said, okay, protection is great, and we call it preventive controls. Okay, but preventive controls sometimes it's easy to be bypassed. Okay, how we can easy bypass it? Okay, we can implement the best firewall here. Okay, we can implement the best, you know, for example, web application firewall. We can have even our IPS, IDS, you know, devices, and it also can allow a lot of, you know, security controls within our network. And we find out that someone bring an USB and then he hooked this USB to his computers, and what happened is your computer got infected, or many computers got infected. So these controls that we have implemented here can be bypassed. Okay, and what I mean by bypass is can easy the attacker, because they always trying to find a way to really, you know, I would say to really exploit system. They will come with an innovative way. And phishing attacks is one of this techniques. So what the attacker will wait? The attacker will wait you to take your laptop to home, and then they will send you an email without all these devices are in the picture. Okay, without your email filtering gateway. And then when you open this email and you click the link, it will lead to compromise your machine. Next day in the morning, you take your machine, you go back to the network, all these devices will not be useful. Okay, why? Because your computer is already infected and it's inside the network. So that's why we said that we cannot rely only on preventive techniques. Preventive techniques is great, okay, as long as your computer wasn't the company. Okay, as long as you're not gonna bring a USB and you know, and start to insert it. So this is a great techniques to really protect your computer. But again, we mentioned that we need also a detection controls and responding controls and recover controls. And we mentioned the detection controls. If we fail to protect, we at least can detect the attacks. Okay, when we detect the attacks, we really need to respond to the attacks and recover from the attack as fast as we can before the attacker really reach to, you know, to the stage of exfiltrating your data, or maybe to encrypt all your environment, or maybe do something very harmful with your employees or with even your facility, as we can see, as we have seen in the SCADA networks. Okay, guys. So the detection here means implement appropriate mechanism to identify the occurrence of cybersecurity incidents. And we mentioned cybersecurity incidents in any violation that can happen within your organization. So, and this violation is going to violate your confidentiality or integrity or availability or even accountability. So any violation that can happen within your organization, and it's very close to threats. So threats also, we can call it violation, okay? Or a harm, you know, actions or events within your organization. So incidents is the same exact thing. So you need to really detect this, and you really need to minimize the time of detections. Why? The more the time you take for detection the attackers, the more the attackers will really have the time to look into your networks and find more vulnerable system and exploit more vulnerable systems. So the detection time, try to make it as fast as you can, and as short as you can, okay, before the attacker really find out about more system within the organization and exploit more system. Okay, we mentioned also one of the things that you really need to do as an attacker, as a cybersecurity engineer, is basically to really minimize the downtime for the systems. And how to minimize the downtime of systems is by implementing something we called it yesterday CB, which is contingency planning or continuity planning. And we mentioned that continuity planning is divided by 3 arms. One of them is basically incident response. We said we're not going to talk about incident response yesterday, but we mentioned that we will talk about it today. But we talked about recovery. Recovery is basically maintain or recover the normal operation to the main sites, okay, after downtime, to recover the business. And we mentioned also yesterday, there is some numbers saying that after a really huge cyber attack, some of the business really go bankrupt, or they will not be able to return back to work. So cyber attacks and downtime can really impact you financially, reputations, and also from being able to be back to the business again. So it's very highly recommended. If you are a big organization, you have recover techniques to recover to recover back in the business. And we mentioned one of this is to establish continuity planning or contingency planning. And we mentioned also one thing, that's contingency planning. It depends about one document that we have already prepared in the early beginning, which is the BIA. Okay, we need to understand the business, okay, impact, and we do some analysis. The business impact is coming from you interviewing people, you're sitting with the management, you understand what systems you are using day to day, you understand the time recovery objective, the data time recovery objective, and the maximum tolerable time for them, and also data loss, like the perspective of data loss and how much data loss the management will also accept. So if you understand all this stuff, you will be able to set your recovery objective in a proper way, and then you will be able to recover the business to the normal operation without really harm. Okay, and this is very important. And the new terminology that started to be emerging in the market right now, especially for job, is basically something called cybersecurity resiliency. And what is the cybersecurity resiliency? Means that you're gonna be attacked, okay? And you're gonna be breached, one day, okay? It's all about resilience. Means once you breached, what will happen now after you breach? Are you be able to detect and respond and recover your business without a huge impact on you or no? So this is the resilience. Resilience is basically, if you looked it online, it means like being able to stand against attacks and return to a normal business. And this is really have to do a lot with detection, responding, and recover. And that's why you always see now a lot of organizations, they spending money to hire SOC engineers and to hire SOC layer 2 engineers. Why? Because they wanted someone to detect the attacks, and someone wanted to respond to the attacks. So it's important to understand what's going on now in the cybersecurity world. The cybersecurity world now going into a new phase, is saying, okay, protection is not going to be enough. That's what I'm not saying that we shouldn't be investing in protection. No, we should have our protection. We have our antivirus, firewall, and everything. But we also need to really being able to be resilient, mean that you're able to withstand an attack and recover from attack. Okay, guys, and that's why you will find that the term resiliency now becomes a buzzword everywhere. Okay, guys, so far so good. Is any of these things is really crazy? You never seen it before? Okay, so in recovery planning, guys. Okay, I cannot see any of you talking.
So yes, with you.
Okay, with me. Okay, alhamdulillah. I feel like sometimes you guys getting like some tea breaks in the morning while I'm talking. It's okay. You can have your own tea before we start the lectures. And once we start the lecture, you can have your own tea and have sip from time to time. I have seen, some students back in my university in Abu Dhabi. What they do, they get like a huge mug of coffee, like from Starbucks or wherever it's Costa Cafe, and they come to the lecture with like a huge cup of coffee. And then from time to time, just like enjoying themselves. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Arim. So we back here, guys, and I said that's the core function over here is basically, it's called recovery. We talked about recovery yesterday, and then we have categories under this core function, and we have subcategories. And the categories basically, it's saying you need to plan for recovery. Okay, so you have to have a proper planning, and that's why we have a contingency planning. And the contingency planning is 3 documents: one for incident and response, one for disaster, and BCB, which is business continuity. Okay, guys, so this is like the document that we need to have, and we need to keep this document updated, and we need to really do a drills and test and walk through to make sure that this business objective is going to be valid at the time of an incident and disaster. Why it's important to test all this stuff, guys? because, you know, at the time of real attack or a time of really downtime, you don't really have the time to think what you should do. You will be in a panic mood. Okay, I will give you an example. That is the day that Aramco has been hit by Shaman virus. Okay, this is 2014. Okay, around 30,000 or 40,000 machine wiped out. Okay, done. No operating system, nothing. And these old machines, one by one, is restarting and no operating system. Can you imagine, okay, if they don't have a plan for this attack? All your hardware, all your software is down now. Okay, if you don't have a recovery function that been tested before, okay, and they know they will be able to recover, maybe Aramco will be out of business. It will take them years to come back to business. But what they done is they just started to really do a recovery for everything that they have. They put new machines. They start to do the recovery in 2 weeks time or maybe 10 days time. They will be able to come back to business. Okay, again. Okay, imagine if you are a company, it doesn't have anything, all your software, all your data is gone, and you don't have any. And that's why backup solution, replication solutions, clustering solutions, the stuff that we said yesterday about archiving and all the stuff is important. And also recovery time objective, you know, data loss objectives, maximum tolerable time for downtime. All this comes to play right now, because if you don't have this plan, if you don't have your backup, if you don't have a disaster recovery side, if you don't have a BCP continuity planning, then one of these cyber attacks can take you completely out of the business. It will take you years to build everything from scratch. Okay, so it's important to plan. Okay, and then it's always a room for improvement. So if you plan and then you executed the plan and then you find out this plan is not working, for some reason, some of the important system is not coming up in the proper time, and all the stuff, you always can, you know, modify your improvement, you modify or improve your plan to have a perfect plan in case of an emergency. Okay, and we looked at also the subcategory is basically how is executed during or after an event, how we do this. Okay, and we also have the lesson learned. We say the post-incident actions. So the team will gather together after an incident or after a disaster. They will start to trying to memorize to remember what happened exactly, what went right, what went wrong, how can we really stop what we went wrong in the future. So this is very important as well. Okay, guys. And then the last section over here, okay, this is basically a controls. What we mean by controls here, guys, so NIST does not really give you only talks. They have some publication, which is actions. Actions means what you really need to implement. Okay, so if for planning, okay, maybe you need to establish your recovery time objective and your maximum times, but we're also gonna tell you that the backup solution should be there. Okay, you know, replication and cloning should be there. Okay, maybe you have a cloud solution as a disaster site is there. You need to implement, for example, hot site or cold site or warm site according to your business. So they give you the technical controls, but the technical controls is coming in the 853. R4 here mean this is revision number 4. So the first revision was back in maybe 2010. And every 2-3 years, when there is new recommendation or new controls are coming out, they will give you this controls in one of the documents and say revision 1, 2, 3, 4. So one of the really, I would say, one of the really best when it comes to suggesting controls within an environment is 853. And I'm telling you, if you are in an interview and he asked you what controls and what is your source of the controls, you can mention the 853, or you can mention ISO 272, which is also a control documents, and it gives you the best breed of controls. Taban, it will not tell you how to implement it. It will give you the name of controls. you need to go back to your environment and start to implement. So you know now that you need a hot site, and they will specify to you what exactly exists in the hot site. They will tell you need to have racks, you need to have, for example, communication links, you need to have servers, you need to have your cooling, and you need to have an uninterrupted power supply. They will give you everything that you need to know. But what brand, how you implement it, okay, how, what the procedures you will do, they will not tell you this. So they will give you a recommendation in these controls, they will give you the name of controls, and it's up to you to choose a vendor, it's up to you to implement it, it's up to you to get which team to implement. Okay, guys? So now, as we can see, this document is full of information. The first of all, it give you the highlight. The highlight is basically the view from 30,000 feet away from Earth. It say, okay, you need to recover. Okay, and then it's recovering. In order to recover, you need to plan for recovering. Okay, in order to plan for recovering, you need to have a document that plan what we do in case of incident, what we do in case of this and this, and then it will refer you for another document, okay, which is the control. It will tell you how to implement this. Once you find out about, you know, the highlights, and then what you need to do, and then the controls, you need only just to practice this in your organization. So you see how easy it is? Now you are following an organized way to implement security. Not saying, okay, you know what, today I need to implement firewall, tomorrow I have to implement this. No, this is not the right way. Follow a standard, or follow a right standard to really have a proper security program within your organization. Okay, guys? This is the respond area. And the respond area, as you can see here, it also starts with planning, okay? And it also highlight the importance of communications, and it also opens the door for improvement. It's almost the same like what we have here, okay? But here it's emphasizing about communications. Means during an incident or during an attack, okay, communication is really important, okay? You need to know, first of all, who you're gonna call, whether this person within your organization or outside the organization. And I'll explain in more details later on. But when within an organization, you need to really know which team I should get involved in this, okay? And this team already is not gonna call them the day and the incident. No, this team was already formed way back. They work together in many projects, and they know each other, and each one of them, he knows exactly his role. So you can call someone from the network team, someone from the system teams, which is Windows and operating system, someone from the application team, someone from the database team, someone from the forensic teams, if you have multiple teams. Maybe in some organization, you don't have all these teams, so maybe you find someone who is taking care of network and system at the same time. So you know which person you will call. You also need to call the HR and the law enforcement team within a law team within your organization to tell them that we are under attacks, so they can really inform other employees and inform management. Okay, sometimes you need to call external teams. So maybe you don't have enough specialties and within your organization to respond to attacks. So you need to get some help from outside. Sometimes this help coming from the country you're living in. So some organization like CERT, they called it, I'm sure that you guys heard about KSA CERT, and KSA CERT is basically an incident response team, but for the entire country. Okay, so you look at the threats and attacks, which comes from the external outside to internally, or from internally to internally. So they have the overview. So maybe you are in contract with them. If something happened, we can call you guys, we need your support and all this stuff. So this is the communication plan, and the incident response is very important. Okay, guys? And sometimes you need to call the stakeholders. Basically, the stakeholders, maybe you can reach out to your user saying that we are under attacks, our service is gonna be down for maybe 2-3 hours, and then we respond. Or maybe we just redirect them through a message to another website. So all this stuff is important. So communication is important, and that's why it's saying in response, okay, or incident response, you need to have a planning first, okay, for the incidents, what you're gonna do exactly in incidents, who is gonna be called, okay, what is the rules, okay, what is the incident stages, okay, what you're gonna do to recover from the incident back to the normal. So this is all covered in the planning phase, okay? And also you have to have a communication plans, and I explain why communication plans. And lastly, you have to learn something from what happened. Okay, you learn something from happened to really for two reasons. The first reason is to protect your information assets from this specific event to happen again. So you say now we're under attack because this and this and that. For example, someone brought malicious malware in this USB, okay, and he managed to insert it. This is the root cause of the issue. Okay, so how can we solve this in order to prohibit this from happening in the future? Okay, so this is the first thing in the lesson learned, that you need to really understand what is the root cause of issue. Maybe you have all of a sudden one hard drive or one server in the data center went down. Okay, why it went down? So this takes me to what I told you a few days ago, to do something called root cause analysis. Root cause analysis, you try to find out what really takes the server down. It was under cyber attacks, it was a power failure, it was hardware failure. What exactly happened? So once you figure out what's happened, you really need to implement new controls so this will not happen in the future. And at the same time, during the incidents, I said there is so many things that we do right, and so many things because there is a panic and everyone is stressed and everyone maybe has no clear rules what he exactly is doing. Maybe at that time we really need to really reflect on what happened, and we try to rectify this from happening again. So this is the lesson learned. Okay, guys? And once we learn something new, once we understand that we would have a default or an issue with our planning, we go back to our strategy, or we go back to our initial incident response planning, and then we modify or change our strategy or update our strategy. Okay, guys? So this is the incident response. Incident response is very important, and it's also just let me show you. Okay, here, this is from yesterday lectures. We mentioned that contingency planning is a big umbrella, mean how to restore your operation to a normal after an incident or after an event or after an attacks or after cyber security attacks. And we mentioned there is 3 arms or 3 pillars of the contingency planning. We always start with incidents. If we cannot contain the incidents, we decide it's a disaster. So we really need to deal with it as a disaster. If we cannot recover in the main side, we need to really to move our business to a business continuity site, like a hot site or warm site or cold site accordingly and according to the business. And I show you the timeline for all these activities. Start with the incidents, and if it's classified as incidents, we really deal with it as an incident, reactions, and incident recovery. We'll talk about the stages, because this is what I told you about yesterday, is the stages. The stages, we'll talk about it today. Okay, if incident is classified as disasters, who is classifying as a disaster? You as an IT and the business. Okay, you come with a business and say, well, this is a disaster. We have over 100 servers are down. So this is a disaster. Okay, so now you need to deal with it as a disaster. And disasters means that if 100 server downs, okay, shall I activate my business continuity? Shall I move to another side? So I try to recover from a backup. What do you think, guys? So we started to talk with the business about it. So this is, we can decide, is a disaster, if it's a disaster and we can recover in the primary side. So we go ahead and try to recover in the primary side. This will be our priority. If it didn't work, we go for business continuity planning, which is basically moving to the hot side. And as you can see, this is the timeline, and this is what's happening in organization. And we need the 3 exact documents to be ready in case of disaster. Okay, guys? And this is a primary function for each one of this. So the incident response focuses on immediate response, but if the attack escalates or is very catastrophic, the process is changed to disaster recovery and BCP. Okay, DRB, which is disaster recovery, focus on restoring system after disasters occur, and as such is closely associated with BCP. Means that they are associated with BCP means if I can return to primary side, it will be called disaster recovery. If I cannot really, okay, then I have to move my business and move my operation to another data center, this is what we call business continuity. Occurs concurrently with DRP when the damage is major or long-term, requiring more than simple restoration of information and information resources. Then we move to the business continuity side, and that's why hot site and warm site and cold site come to place. Okay, guys. So far, so good. This is also a picture that we looked at yesterday, which is basically very simple. It's saying, okay, you know, have fire or maybe a disaster like maybe flooding. I gave you an example yesterday for flooding, earthquake. Okay, you try your. This is not an incident. Okay, because flood is gonna destroy all your hardware. Okay, a fire, if it's like really not contained fire, it's gonna also destroy all your data center, and you know, even it's a threatening life situation. So you need really to move to another BCP or business continuity website, like a site. Even when your employee needs to go there, work from there. And I remember when we implemented business continuity where I used to work before, they have they said, okay, in case of really disaster, we don't really need 200 people to go there because we don't have a space for this. I need 20, okay, or 30 specific users to be there because this is the main key player in my organization. So this is also shows you that planning and thinking about the whole thing before ahead is important, because what if the fire right now happen, okay, and we didn't agree who is gonna go there? We will find 100 users are going while I have only space for 30. So who's gonna sit where and who's gonna do what? Okay, so it's important to communicate this ahead, and that's why we have the communication and the communication is, and planning is very important in these situations. Okay, guys, just let me show you one. We talked about this yesterday in very brief way. The recovery point objective, the recovery time objective, and maximum tolerable time. And I mentioned clearly this specific terminology is important. This is where you will talk with the business, okay, and you understand the criticality of the system, and they will say, okay, this system can, you know, be down for 1 day, or this system can be down maximum for 2 days. So you understand this is a maximum tolerable time. So you start to look at the recovery time objective. Then now I need to recover this system before the 2 days. Okay, so this is a recovery time objective. It needs to be less than MTD. Okay, guys. And then the recovery point objective is also understanding from business how much data we are really looking at to lose if we have an incident or have a disaster. And this is also something you don't come up with as an IT. You really need to understand from business, because you understand, you know what, for this certain database, we accept only 30 seconds of, data loss. Another place like an Exchange, they said, okay, if we have 6 hours of no emails, we can, even if we didn't get this email, it's okay, because if someone calls you and say, you didn't receive the email, you can easily tell him, okay, can you receive it back? Or maybe if your server is down and someone send you an email, he will get a message saying this email is not there anymore, so you can really contact me later. So this is all the stuff that you really need to agree with the business with. Okay, let's just move to the point of today quickly. Okay, so we mentioned that we need to respond. Respond mean incident response. Okay, first of all, we need to identify incidents. Okay, incidents is any adverse event, okay, or a threat, which is going to be also impacting our confidentiality, integrity, availability for a system. So this is in a very simple. Any adverse impact, okay, that can can cause confidentiality issue or integrity, or denial of service, or intrusions, or misuse, anything of this, okay, can consider it an incident. So for example, someone started a denial of service attack against your system. This is an incident, okay, and they deal with it as an incident in so many organizations. Okay, if you have a malware within your organization, malware can spread, can cause system to be crashed, can spy on people around, can open a backdoor to the attacker. So this is an incident. Okay, someone browse an inappropriate website. This is an incident. Okay, because what? Because he's misusing the resources. Okay, someone destroy his laptop. Okay, whether he spill some water on it or whether he installed the software that encrypted his laptop, this is an incident. So all of this, anything that has an adverse effect on your organization when it comes to computer systems, it's called an incident. So you can you find someone, you find crazy stuff when you go to work in the real world. You find someone finding interesting to take a game from someone, and install it in his computers, or maybe someone, I seen it in one incident in front of my eyes. He brought an improper charger, like a power, like a phone charger, and we had power plugs under each computers, and these power plugs are connected to something called power extension cord, and this is a power extension cord is connected to our power supply. So he said, okay, you know what, you have 3 computers are connected here. He find one space here in this power extension cord. If you know, if you guys know what is power extension cord? Power extension cord? Never seen it before?
No.
Okay, power extension cord. I don't know even in Arabic. So let me extension. This one. سموه ايه عندكم؟ I don't know. What do you guys call this one?
توصيلة كهرباء.
Wow. أيوة, this one. Okay, توصيلة. Yes. Okay, so this one you connect multiple computer to it. Okay, so he decided to bring his own charger, which was not original charger, and this charger was really bad quality. So once he plugged his charger here, the whole thing went down. Okay, and it took 3-4 computers down at the same time. Okay, and I was like, what happened? And I was like checking what happened to this computer. I didn't really understand what happened. Then I started to look around, because all this computer now is down from electricity point of view. Okay, so I went and I checked out, and then I found one. Someone has plugged his charger here. So this is an incident. Why? Because it caused harm to computer system, and it's really compromised my availability. So this is crazy stuff that's happening in the organization, and you really need to go and check yourself what is happening in order to stop this crazy events. Okay, so this is an incident. I just wanted to give you an example. So how to react? Okay, so you need to really be incident response is about being is about being able to react to all these incidents. Okay, so whether you have a stolen laptop, you need to really have a plan. If someone his laptop is stolen, what you're gonna do? Okay, are you gonna able to remote wipe this laptop or this device? Are you gonna be able to restore the data that it used to be in this device? What happens if how do you respond to a virus, system failure, denial of service? So this is what incident response is all about. It really allow you to be able to respond in a professional way. Okay, because if you don't know how to respond in a professional way, you're gonna cause more damage. For example, you have a system computer virus, or maybe a malware within one computer. If you don't know that you need to isolate this computer first, and one of the ways to isolate a computer is maybe to move it to a specific VLANs, or maybe to disable the port for this specific computers from this specific switch in a very short time. This, if you don't do this in an appropriate way, what will happen is this malware is going to spread. It can cause more damage. So you really need to respond in a professional way and according to a plan that you already decided before. Okay. And again, and that's why they called it incident handling. So we talked about what is incident. Now we're going to talk about incident handling. Incident handling is action taking to protect and restore the normal operation condition of computers and the information stored in them when an adverse event occurs. So now when we say that you are handling this case, means that you try to first of all to restore this system to the original state. So your business go back, because if you have a system which is down, or 4 computers is down, 2 computers is down, now your business is losing productivity. These 10 guys who are sitting in these computers, they were supposed to do XYZ within 2-3 hours. Okay. Now if these computers are down 3-4 hours, now we're losing productivity and time from work, and that means we're losing money. Imagine if you have one server and this server is also down for 10 hours and we cannot really bring it back. So this is also means we're losing money. I will show you guys in 1 second how much we lose money exactly when we are talking about incidents. But for now, incident response is to restore to normal operations, okay, and to really make business go back to work in as fast as you can in a professional way. Okay, guys. And the thing here, different type of incidents. Some of the incidents I already mentioned, it's like someone clicked an email, so he installed a malware, denial of service, or distributed denial of service. Some very confidential data is being stolen from a device or from a computer. Some users, they are crazy about peer-to-peer networks. If you guys doesn't know what is peer-to-peer networks, it's basically networks, so you can install free versions of everything from it. So a lot of end of users are using it to maybe install some nice songs for free or nice movies for free. So this is all this stuff. It's happening, right? But the problem with peer-to-peer network specifically, guys, is as it allow you to download stuff from outside. It open your computers and open your networks to someone to download from outside. So it's peer-to-peer. There is no servers. You are not downloading from servers. You are opening also your computer. So if someone saw a very important file in your computer, he can download it. So this is also very common, especially if you give the end user the facility to install stuff, they will install peer-to-peer or to access peer-to-peer networks. So this is all type of incidents, and you really need to know how to handle it. Okay. So why we do this? Why we do incident handling? Why we really need to care of incidents? Because there is a business impact. And the business impact, as I mentioned, it could be financially, it could be reputation, it could be your entire database is being stolen. It can be really impacting the whole economy of a country. If, for example, let's say that if you have an incident that's really took Aramco 10 years out of business, or 1 year out of business to restore everything, this 1 year, it would cost the country money. It will cost your economy money. It will really need expertise from outside. So you need to pay extra money. So it can impact the entire economy. So we said that we need to minimize the impact of an incident, because it's reflected on us, whether financially or whether even whether it's financially or economic, or hatta in safety. If we have a pipeline that's exploded or something, this is an incident and we can cause a human life loss. Okay, this is an estimation for how much an incident will cost. Okay, average cost of the data breach, someone breach your network, it's going to be around $4 million. Okay, but these numbers are estimates. But what if you have like a mega breach, which is you have so many millions of records in your database? So if you have only 1 million records, you are losing 40 million. If you have 50 million records, you are using 350 million. How did they come up with these numbers, by the way, guys? Why are they saying 350 million? Okay, because first of all, you will have to to pay fines in some of these cases to the government, because you didn't protect your data. Sometimes you need to pay fines for the end user, because if you have a credit card and you didn't know how to protect it properly, and someone stole this credit card, the owner of credit card can come to you back and say, you know what, give me a compensation. Okay. Also, if you have an incident, you need really to recover from the incident. So you're paying for the incident response team if you don't have one, and you're paying for the recovery for the system. Sometimes it requires to buy a new hardware or software for this specific system. So they counted this as all as a cost, and they give you these numbers. Okay. Some also interesting fact, guys, which is you really need to really care about, and this is what I keep telling you. Okay, there is something called mean time to identify and mean time to contain. Okay, what we mean by mean time to identify here, okay, means that this is days to find and say that you have a confirmed breach. Okay, so look at these numbers. It's around 200 days until I figure out that I've been breached. 200 days. You know, this is a disaster. These numbers here, I'm telling you, it's not, if you even looked for the most recent dwell time, they called it sometimes dwell time or mean time to identify. In a most like really optimistic cases, it will be 100 days. And you know what means that we have 100 days until we find out about breach. That's mean the attacker have already done every single thing that he wanted to know, he wanted to do. And maybe he exfiltrated your data. Maybe he's now is really preparing for a really an encryption. And I'm telling you, it can take 1 day or 2 days to compromise the entire network from an attacker. Now, what we're saying this in this number is crazy. We're saying that it would take us really long time until we detect the attacks. And look at this, mean time to contains. Okay, after we find the attacks, how long it takes us to recover everything and back to the operation and clean up all the mess the attacker has done. This is, it will take extra 70 days, or at least in a maximum optimistic way, 50 days really to restore from a breach. So this is really big numbers. I'm telling you, this is, if you counted these two numbers together, that's around 1 year just to figure out that you've been attacked and to recover. But the attacker really will not give you a chance to stay 1 year. They will really act on their objective once they compromise one system. Okay, guys, so this is another thing that I wanted to say. Okay, we'll take a break here, and then we'll come back, and we'll talk about how we can detect an incidents. Okay, do you want guys to go for a break, or should we continue? Should we continue? Break? Okay, I will say I will go with Razan. We need some tea break, especially in the morning. Okay, thank you, Abtisam. So I'll go for a tea break, 10:20. We'll come back. It will be a good opportunity to also you guys to some tea break or coffee break. I know it's important from time to time to charge your caffeine level to a good status. So yes, we'll go for a break. Okay, guys, 10:20. See you guys. Okay, guys, welcome back. How was the break so far? Okay. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the break. So we go back to here. So just let me share the screen. Okay, guys. So here, over here, guys, Tisam, she said, MashaAllah, she made this is a cup of coffee, or Nescafe, or cappuccino, or cappuccino. Man, there is so many things right now. I don't even remember how many. Espresso. I know that all of you guys have different tests, so hopefully it's one of these. Okay. So we back here, guys, and we talked about what is incidence, and we mentioned that incidence is anything that's gonna violate our confidentiality, integrity, or availability for a system. So it's important. Okay, I see Ibtihal saying a black coffee. That's good. It's good. This is like really refreshing. So we mentioned that incidence is any violation for or a threat for our or anything that can really violate our information security when it comes from confidentiality, integrity, or availability. We have mentioned this. We have talked already why we need to respond to incidents, because incidents will have a business impact, and this business impact can be financially, or even reputations, or even economic impact. And if you guys look at here, this diagram, it's basically saying incident may include, okay, but I would say that this specifically slides is talking about how can we detect a malicious incident within our organization. So we can really detect malicious incident within the organization by IT ways and by non-IT ways, okay? By IT ways, we can really detect there is something suspicious by our devices that we install. So our firewall is meant initially, guys, to really prevent unacceptable traffic to our organization. But the firewall also can log what kind of activity is happening within an organization, whether it's coming from outside or from inside. So your firewall can really see the traffic, and one of your computers is infected with a malware, is trying to access outside. The firewall will already see the logs for accessing, and he will send these logs to a system engineer or to a SOC analyst who is gonna see these logs and start to try to see what is happening inside your organization. So this is one of the ways to detect there's something malicious, your firewall, okay? Change in configuration. You are in a system, for example, and you all of a sudden you find that one of the users in one of the system users in this organization, in this system, has already changed his role from a normal user to a root user, or maybe to an admin user. Who has changed the rule? Okay, if the IT can detect this issue, it can really be great, because it can give them an indication there's something maliciously happened. So if I am an administrator and I can see one of the user permission it changed on a system, I can tell who is changing permissions. And that's why, guys, in the big companies right now, they implement something called BAM, and BAM solution is privilege access management. And the privilege access management is really looking at users and looking at the privilege and permission. So if something happened or the administrator done something suspicious, you can easily detect what's happening. Okay, guys? IDS and IPS can recognize an irregular pattern, means one of your system is really infected. He went outside, he sit in a Wi-Fi public place, he got infected, he comes back, his machine started to send malicious data outside. Your IPS, IDS, the intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system that we already implemented long time ago last week, or we talked about it last week, they can give me an alert. There is suspicious activity or suspicious traffic coming from this. Okay, by looking at the traffic, you can tell this machine is really infected. So all of these guys and so many other stuff, unusual high traffic, it's an indication that someone is trying to exfiltrate data or taking data away from your network to outside. Okay, inappropriate file transfer. This is also indication for a compromise. All of these guys, they call it IOC. IOC is indication of compromise. Okay, and indication of compromise, there is something malicious happen in these computers, and it start to act maliciously. It start to create a new folders. It start to scan the network. The machine in the network started to scan the network. So this is also something suspicious. That's why it's saying any inappropriate file transfer and unusually high traffic is also indication. Okay, so all of this can really give me an indication that something malicious. So this is from computer point of view. Also from employees point of view, employees can tell you, you know what, my computer today is acting strange. Okay, it is very slow. Okay, I got a lot of pop-up messages. I got a lot of example inappropriate sites. Okay, I was like really trying to load my computers and it's not loading. This is all of these observation from the users, guys, is important. And that's why also it takes me to, it's important to train your user to see these activities because they are your first line of defense. So they can tell you, you know what, I clicked the link in an email and then after this clicking this link, my computer started to act maliciously. If the user has the mentality of coming, telling the IT there's something happened malicious in his computer, this will save a lot of time for the IT. Why? Because he's giving you the root cause. He's giving you the indication that he's being compromised. So you should be very thankful that your user, and you shouldn't be scaring them. And a matter of fact, you should be training them and giving them an awareness how to detect that something is really malicious. Or maybe they will be saying, you know what, someone called me today and he said, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to, reach someone from IT. Can you help me with his email or the computer name or whatever? So someone is trying to social engineering your employees. So your employees can be your first line of defense, and they can be an indication for an incident. So you really need to train them and take their word in very serious way. Okay, guys. So this is important. Okay, NIST has a special publication for incident response, and they define incident as a violation or imminent threats of violation of computer security policy or acceptable use, or even the practice of security practice, which is the same exact meaning, which is we said any violation for our computer system. It comes to confidentiality, integrity, availability, or it comes to the networks, it's considered as an incident. Okay, and they have a nice, and in this diagram saying here that basically incident is part of the BCP, business continuity planning, or business contingency. Okay, guys, so far so good. Okay, here this is the incident stages. Okay, I told you when you really try to rectify an incident, when you try to handle the incident and recover the incident or recover the business to the normal operations, you will need to go through an stages, okay, or a methodology. And this methodology coming from NIST. So you need to prepare before the incidents. You need to have a plan. You need to know who is going to be involved in the incidents. What is their communication channel? How you're going to reach them? Okay, you need to also to coordinate between them. So every one of them has a specific rules with on time in the incidents. You need to coordinate with externals. If you need to coordinate with your service provider, or you need to coordinate with example with a third from your country. So all of this, if you need to communicate with the press, sometimes you have a huge data breach, and you need really to communicate with the press. Who is going to communicate with the press? Who is going to be our representative? So this is all need to be in the preparation phase. Once the preparation phase is done, so you have your team up and running, everything. Now you are waiting for one of your SOC analysts or one of your SOC tier 1, we called it SOC tier 1. Okay, SOC tier 1 to tell you that it's something detected unsuspicious, or detected suspicious. Once they escalate this to you, you start to verify and detection and analyze. Okay, I have something malicious. Is it really malicious, or this is a false positive? Who can tell you if you start to do what? To analyze, to detect, and to verify if it's an incident or not. And then once you detect and you confirm it's an incident, and you analyze and see what is the root cause of this incident, what caused this incident to happen, okay? What worm, what, for example, denial of service attack, who was the user that impacted by this, which system? If you finish all this question, once you finish all this question, you go and do containment. Containment means you isolate the system from your entire network, okay? Because now the system is infected, or this system can really has an maybe an issue that can really propagate within your network, okay? So you need to really contamination means like I will really contain it in one separate area with to minimize the damage